My name is Jeff Wyatt, and I work for the North Carolina National Guard Employment Center. We are doing this video to help you identify the additional skills you bring to the table and which of those skills are transferable into the civilian sector. As you can see here, we are on the Army Cool page, Credentialing Opportunities Online. And what you will need to do first when you get to this page is you will scroll up and you will select the proper identifier for your situation. Are you an officer enlisted? Are you an officer? Are you a warrant officer? Or are you enlisted? You select enlisted if you are enlisted. So once you have reached this page, as you see here, you get to also select if you are enlisted or officer to see which branch or your military occupational specialty you align with. So as you go down here, you get to select which one you would like. So what I'm going to do is pick an MOS and go through it step by step so that you can see what information you can use to help, one, improve your resume, and two, also identify any shortcomings you may have in regards to technology, licenses, certifications, and or basic simple processes or procedures that you may not know from your current industry. As you can see, I've selected 25 Bravo, Information Technology Specialist. So as I go through here, there is lots of information in this that you can use to beef up your resume if you notice that you are missing any military jargon that you may need for any applications or resumes that you are targeting towards contracting companies and or federal state opportunities that are affiliated with the military. In this, you can use this as your summary. You can also just add tidbits through based off of how long you held the MOS and or if there were any additional skill identifiers that we need to also encompass if they're not listed and you don't know where to find the information. So from this page, this will allow you to identify on the left-hand side here certifications, apprenticeships, state licenses, education, federal occupations, civilian occupations, and future career considerations. As you can see, it's also costs and funding. So all of these bits and pieces will assist you in navigating forward into your occupation. So the portion we are most interested in would be civilian occupations. Now that I've navigated over to civilian occupations, I'll begin to scroll down and review some of the opportunities that it presents. So some of these are primary industries and some of these are, we'll say, a subcategory of that industry. So we're trying to get you closer to what you're going to actually be performing and or interested in doing when you get to your new opportunity. So what you see here is network systems, and this is going to be the one we go into. As you can see, there's a few icons here that stand out. You can hover over it briefly, and it will give you some information about what's going on. So as you can see, most tasks in these careers match most duties of the military job or specialty. So essentially what that means is there are a lot of tasks or skills associated with this job that are directly in line with what you did in the military. If you look over here, you see that it says some, which means it might be harder. There may be a larger learning curve. So that means you have to do this next step extra thorough. When you look in here, it tells you if it's going to be a bright outlook to let you know that the industry itself is expecting to be able to employ a lot of individuals with this occupation. You look here, The registered apprenticeship essentially means there's a regional or national or international body that governs it and that has approved that there is a specific training module or process for you to complete that will allow you to walk into that occupation. STEM showing that it usually requires some sort of degree and or specialty in the science and technology realm. And if that is the case, you have to make sure that you also hold those credentials as well. So all of these little bits and pieces of information are very important. So now we're going to navigate on to the next page. So as you can see here, what we'll do is look at the job titles that are mentioned underneath here where it says also called. We are looking at network specialist, network technical analyst, network technician, and systems analyst or systems specialist. So what I then do is I take these job titles, I highlight them, and then I copy and paste them onto a Word document. After I've taken them to the Word document, or after I've pasted them to the Word document, I then move over here to job search engines that are very popular and or very reliable, my personal favorite being LinkedIn, mainly because of the likelihood of coming across a scam of some sort is less likely in my opinion, and it allows me to also target companies that I know I have colleagues and or friends or associates that are employed by that organization, which then helps me validate that that employer is legitimate and this is a legitimate posting to apply to. So that is the reasoning behind me using LinkedIn. I know some people prefer Monster or Indeed or some of the other ones out there, but my personal favorite is LinkedIn. So I am taking this position here, this position title, and I'm going to highlight, copy, and then go over here, go into the job section of my LinkedIn. I always clear my recent job searches so that they don't impact what I'm doing with my clients. And I paste the job title. And LinkedIn is very finicky with this item. So what you want to do is make sure that something does come up as a reference, like this one right here. If nothing does, it's not going to do the search properly. So you might have to change the job title and or reword it. Maybe change the order of the word, and maybe they might have it labeled in the system. So I found it, I select it, and then I look at what I want to do, and typically I want to get the most up-to-date information on the market as possible. So typically what I'll go for maybe is in the past month. If I'm looking for more recent opportunities because I'm trying to get someone placed sooner, I'll look more in the past week. But typically past month will get you within the scope of what you're trying to do. So now here, an example of one of these positions would be the terminal systems specialist with Dixon Valve here at Chestertown, Maryland. Well, as you scroll through here, it'll list responsibilities and competencies. But what we're looking for are things that say requirements and or preferred qualifications. And when you see the word preferred qualifications, you should always take a note of it to yourself so that you can go ahead and begin working on some of those things. Because though they might not be a requirement right now, they may become a requirement within the next 3 to 5 years. And with that being said, you don't have to be an expert in everything all the time, but as long as you have a strong frame of reference, employers love you. So in this situation, since I don't have any requirements or preferred qualifications, I copy and paste this information over into the Word document, and then I begin to rework it to essentially tailor it to the individual's current experience level. And I look back on what their previous experience was, and I try to establish what trends and or patterns or processes did they take part in before, and help them in navigating how to present this information properly on a resume. As you can see here with the terminal system specialist, they don't have any requirements listed. So since you don't see the requirements listed other than competencies, then to make it a little easier for you, here's a position here with system specialist. So as you scroll down, this is what they're looking for: qualifications and experience, requirements. So each one of these pieces, the equipment is being mentioned right here: Dell Latitude and Precision Model PCs, Zebra label printers, mobile computers, and other IT end user devices. That's an example of some of the hardware technologies that you may need to have experience or knowledge of. That should be listed in your resume and be listed properly. By having the actual titles of some of these systems, it will allow you to get through some of these applicant tracking systems that have proven to be very pesky. As you go through, you'll be able to identify other systems or processes, soft skills, hard skills that are important, even software applications that are important within the industry in which you're working and or planning to make your new home. So it's important to identify some of these things so that, one, you can list the experience that you already have, and two, if you do not have the experience, it gives you a base so that you can go and do some research on some platforms like Google or YouTube that can help you get a little more in-depth knowledge of what exactly that system does and maybe what the expectations are on the back end from what your user end experience would be. So with that being said, that gives you a stronger frame of reference and helps you identify, again, all of the hard and soft skills that are required within this occupation and or field, which will in turn also prepare you for your interview, because then you'll be more likely to be able to answer questions in regards to specific systems, processes, hard skills and soft skills, and be able to reach back on previous knowledge and experience to help answer that question. Because you've already done your research, you already have that frame of reference, and you see how similar GCSS Army and or one of the other military applications that you've used is similar to the civilian one. So with you understanding that allows you to have a stronger frame of reference and allows you to go in and be able to handle the job in a very responsible way and have the least issue, or maybe a lower likelihood of being terminated from inability to do the work. Now, let's say you're doing your research, and as you're reading over the job duties that are affiliated with this position, you discover that you are not very interested in performing some of those job duties. If you are not interested in doing those types of job duties, I would suggest you pick another one. And if you don't like any of what the job duties are associated with these job titles, feel free to navigate back here and select a different one, and then begin the same process. As you see, there are several job titles here associated with this particular industry and or occupation. So with that being said, you begin to troubleshoot and identify which ones you would like to use, and then you place them into that Word document so that you can then begin to plan what your research strategy will be and also identify things that need to be added to your resume and or application. You can then go back over here, back to LinkedIn, enter in the job titles that you selected, and begin your research that way. That is how you will gain your qualifications, requirements, your preferences, all of the things that the employer is seeking, and you will move that over. Remember, it's also identifying your hard and soft skills, software application, process knowledge, and or technologies that you are aware of that are utilized in that industry and or occupation. So with that being said, go through this, identify what is credible. So right here, this is not something you would need to add to your resume, 100% on-site working environment. some of these things that you might see listed in here might not be very valuable. So feel free to remove them as long as they're not mentioning a particular hard skill, soft skill, software, process, and or any technologies that may be required for that occupation. So I have navigated over to the certifications and licenses that are in line with the 25 Bravo Information Technology Specialist, MOS. And what I'm going to do now is kind of go over this briefly to highlight the importance of understanding the occupation or industry that you're going into. So as you're doing your research with that last process that I just showed you, or the other process that I went over in regards to the civilian occupations, identifying some of the job titles associated with your MOS, now we can actually, now that we've looked at those requirements and preferred qualifications, we can in real time determine which certifications and or licenses are required for that industry or the job you're going into. So there are lots of tidbits of information on this page, and what you can do is review it. Once you've reviewed that information from the civilian occupations and you've done that analysis through cross-referencing with LinkedIn, now you can actually determine which certifications are needed for that job. So now you can come here and look at them and see some of the information that's being presented about them. So maybe help you prepare for the actual certification or license. So as I hover here, you can see directly related to most of the major duties associated with the military occupation, more than likely going to be required. If it's not, then maybe it's for specialty positions. Just keep your eyes open and pay attention to the information you're receiving. So if your research on LinkedIn and cross-referencing with the jobs, you will be able to improve your situation. So here you see this is for credentialing assistance. So that means you are eligible to use your current military service while you're in to currently take that exam and or course while you are currently serving in the military, and it would be paid for by the federal government in that sense. This here is basically describing what the difficulty level will be in achieving it. So that could mean that it's very complicated, very difficult, or it could also mean that because of how competitive it is, only a certain number of people graduate with it. So there's that. This credential apparently contributes to your current rank system and or promotion capabilities. So essentially you can receive points from your enlistment while you're getting promoted throughout the years. It can go with your packet, gets added to your iPerms. You'll get a certificate of eligibility, so on and so forth. You can upload those things, and that will give you credit on your next promotion as well, depending on how many points you already have. If you're already maxed out, it might not help much, but it could be something that gets you selected over another NCO or another officer or someone else that's competing for that same position that you're going to. So all of these other things, of course, you can hover over them if you want to learn more about them and how they relate to the actual field you're going into. This here saying in demand, saying that there are a lot of companies looking for people with this specific certification. Sometimes when you're going to achieve these or you're seeking to receive a certification and or a license, there are prerequisites that are associated with it. Those prerequisites or things that should be done before you get to this point may require you to maybe have a degree or specialty in a specific field of work. So maybe you've got 7 years in IT, and the only way that you can be eligible for a supervisory position is with this. So they require that 7 years up front, and your employer can sign off stating that you've received that 7 years of experience from them in order to be eligible to complete the certification process. If you do not have the minimums required for the certification or licensure, they will not even allow you to enroll in the course. So you need to make sure that you also meet those minimum requirements if they have any. So make sure you're going in on each of these once you've established which ones are required from your research. And then you do in-depth research to figure out, okay, which ones require what and should I place them in a certain sequence. So the way I see it is easiest to earn to hardest, mainly because the easier ones are already knocked out by a lot of the individuals in the profession. And as you go up, that also allows you to be more competitive against them in the environments you're working in. Some of these certifications can also get you a raise if you're currently already working in the civilian sector with this. And as we mentioned before, it could definitely give you points on promotion while you're currently serving as well.